Yeah. Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Expanding the Conversation with Richard and Kofi. If my voice sounds a little bit nasal, it's because I've been battling the cold. I know this time of year. I think it must be after everybody has met up over the holidays and stuff that we tend to share each other germs or something, and it tends to be out there. But hey, we're doing good. Welcome to you guys. Happy New Year. And welcome to our show. So, Rich, what have you been up to? How's your holiday and what's been going on with you, man?
All right. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I know it's been a while. But yeah, just on my end, just a lot of the. I have the same cold problems, so I apologize. Um, but yeah, just a lot of the same old stuff. Work, family, trying to stay healthy. Just trying to keep up with yard work and housework, and figure this life out. But for the most part, just a lot of the same stuff. I have been working really hard on my golf game. Not that anybody's generally interested in that, but that's high on the priority list.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. No, I guess we sound like two regular guys, man. Same with family. Spent a lot of time with family over the holiday. I actually slept a lot this holiday and relaxed, had some good pepper pot, and just chilled out, which I think is great. It's one of the things I love about the holidays. The big things I'm working on now. I'm at the university as dean of the engineering faculty, so I think engineering is going to play such a big role in Guyana's development, and I've always wanted to be a part of that, so I'm very grateful to be able to inspire the next generation of engineers in the country. And so that's one of the things I've been working really hard on amidst a couple of other things. But yeah, just trying to do as much as I can in that area to sort of commit it to how Ghana is developing and really want to be a part of that. So that's what I've been doing. So, guys, one of the things we're going to talk about is, I don't know, so we throw a little bit of dynamism into our program. Today, we'll talk about 2025 and setting goals and staying positive. But I know everybody, there's so much going on with all of us, right? So we're not like one dimensional. So we're multidimensional. So I'm sort of interested, Rich. I know that we're either on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or just looking at news. Is there anything like maybe top two, three things that you've been looking at that you think is kind of interesting?
Well, I mean, for me specifically, it's I think as I shared with you in a couple of different conversations, we are at an interesting point in our life cycle.
Hmm.
We're mid 40s, and I'm sure a lot of us are seeing older relatives age. Our kids are getting older. Like, I saw your kids the other day, and they're almost as big as you, and my kids
Hmm.
are getting there pretty quick. Um, and so there's a little bit of a transition that, even though I feel like I would have observed it from afar, it's a very different feeling being in it, right? You start out with your goals when you're younger, and you pursue those. You have kids, and of course, we're living in I would say, one of the most interesting times ever. Not just in terms of our own lives, but I think the development we're seeing in Ghana, the stuff that's happening in the U.S. I heard Canada's prime minister resigned the other day. You have all the other stuff that's
Yeah,
happening everywhere else in the world, and so there's a lot of different things to make sense of, to come to
compost
terms with.
Greenland.
Yes. So there's all of that, and then I think, from the parenting perspective, just I remind myself every day how clueless I am to be a parent, in the sense that the technology has just shifted so much, not only for us but for our kids, and being able to guide and help them along on that journey as they sort of move on to what they want to do next,
Yeah.
after school and everything else. So I would say for me, the top three things would be, you know, kind of spending more time with my parents. I know that they're getting older, and you take that for granted sometimes. So that's high on my list, and that requires me being back in Ghana a little bit more often. So that's on the list of things. So
So I'll
that
see you
helps.
down here a lot.
Um, yes, that's the goal. I'm manifesting it. And then just with the kids, like I said, helping the kids and making sure that sort of this critical moment in their lives that I'm providing the right support. And if I don't know stuff, just find somebody else that knows it, right? Like you're a smart fella, I'll send them to you, and find more people to help, coach and mentor them, right? Um, and then maybe the next biggest one is probably just health. Like I said, we're at that point now. We know that we're gonna have some health transitions. I'm trying not to call them, struggles, but it's going to be different, right? And I had my checkup last week, Monday,
Hmm. Hmm.
and just going through those conversations, and the things we're talking about is very different, and a lot of new things that wouldn't have come up before. And they're like, well, you get into that age, you're gonna have to start considering certain types of screenings, etc. So for me, those are kind of probably the biggest things. Just making sure that you know, and it's interesting because I think you're sort of forced to embrace your own mortality, right? As you think about that
Yeah.
stuff, we're gonna see all the relatives, slowly move on, and it's, at least for me, it's embracing that mortality and thinking about what are the key things that I need to work on, to do my best in the time that in the last half of my year, of my life. Sorry.
Yeah, that's very reflective. That's pretty good. The things that I've jumped on, and we'll talk more about my goals similar to what you're talking about. It's just stuff I've noticed that I think is interesting. One, it seems like Venezuela wants to get back in the news. I think they were talking about electing a governor or something of the sort for the Essequibo region. So as Guyanese, I think that's something we should be paying attention to. I think this is really interesting because I think as Guyanese, we have been sort of behind the game of Venezuela. They've pushed a lot of propaganda for years, right, talking about Escobar, and we've always just sort of, we knew it's ours, and we've been sort of relaxed in that truth. But sometimes we haven't really stayed ahead of it, and I'm kind of happy that we've got good unity in the country on this. It's a big election year, of course, so that's something that always creates some schisms in our country. But I know that the issue of Venezuela is a unifying force for Guyanese, so that's something that I've looked at and I'm trending and looking at in the news. Random stuff. I saw the youngest kid, Saborno Isaac Barry, 12 years old, going to New York University. When I see things like that, I'm like, man, what was I doing in my life? 12, right? But amazing, amazing story.
You're a rock star in your own right. So
I know, right? But I think people should check that out. I think there's a lot of cool things happening. And one of the things I actually, so I do a lot of reading and like scientific papers and so on. One of the things I stumbled on I thought was interesting. We have a big plastic problem, sustainability problem in the world, and wax worms. Guys, check this out. Wax worms, um, right? They are kind of like a larva that become a moth, and they have saliva that could digest plastic, both in dissolving it and when they eat it, and then convert it into useful stuff. And plastic, this is polyethylene. Most plastic is made of polyethylene, obviously PE. And as you know, everybody knows it's really, really hard to degrade. We've heard stories, it sticks around for 100 years. And so I thought this was really cool because as someone who's been involved in environmental sustainability and environmental engineering, I think this is really cool because it's biodegradable. It's something that's living, that's actually causing this to happen. So I think people should check that out. Yeah, wax worms are degrading plastic. So we finally have a little leeway on our plastic problem, you know. So I thought that was cool. Well, man, it's 2025. There are days when I sat back and I thought about this. I believe it was in 2012, sometime or before that, might have been before that. There was a movie that came out, and they were showing movies of the future, like 2012 climate change movies or like 2025. It's here. It's like the future. The future is here. You know,
We're living in the future. That's right.
we're living in the future, right? AI is here, right? ChatGPT is here, and so we are living in a very, very different time. And so, welcome 2025, right? And so, I don't know what people are thinking about this year, but I really wanted us to talk a little bit about what are we thinking about goals. You already mentioned that one of the things you want to do is spend more time with your parents, because we're seeing that generation kind of age, and we're kind of moving into sort of, as the young people say, big people. We like the big people now. Uncle Richard and Uncle Kofi. Um, and so you're seeing that shift, right? And so I want to understand that more. What are your goals and what are you thinking? And how are you planning to stay positive? Because, I was listening to some encouraging things this morning, and it talks about our our attraction for negativity, right? We seem to have this attraction for negativity, for negative things. And like I said, the election year for Guyana is coming up. And we also even saw it in the election here in the US, where, negative news and media travels much faster than positive news. And it takes so much work to stay positive, be positive, look for the good in things. And so really, Rich, like, what are you thinking about for 2025, and like what's your goal to stay positive? You're a very positive guy, so what are you thinking?
I appreciate that. No, it is like you said, the future is here. I don't know that we necessarily knew what was coming. I also don't think we know what's here, right? A lot of the things that are happening now are new to us. Some of it is addictive, like in a real physical way that I don't think we have a lot of control over, and I don't think we know how to manage it, right? Like we were part of a conversation recently that talked about, and we were talking about like when you go through your social media feed, you come across all kinds of randomness, right? With the
Hmm.
AI stuff, um, sky's the limit, right? I saw a video the other day of and I think there was actually one with Donald Trump at one point, talking about Guyanese people and when he becomes president. I don't know if you saw it, but
Oh
it's
yeah,
Donald Trump and his lips are moving and he's talking,
it's a
yeah,
voiceover.
yes, yeah, like but it's very, very, very sort of convincing. Like if you look at it, especially if you're if you're looking at it on a
Deep fake,
device,
deep fake.
then it is, but it's so convincing, right? So um, that stuff is out there, and a lot of us um, don't know, not because we're not smart, we just have never been taught how to sort of curate or cultivate what our virtual world looks like, right? We kind of just go out there and we scroll. I believe that reels are the devil. I just it's too addictive, right? You look at a reel and it's so easy to kind of keep flipping it. I'm guilty of that. But I think it's trying to figure out and asking better questions. I think when we see information and things that could be misinformation, as opposed to starting to spread it, right? Because it's easy when you hear something or you see something to, especially if it impacts you negatively in an emotional sense, right? it's easy to just start spreading that to everybody, right? And all of a sudden now we've got mass panic. People are like, I think I remember one, someone showed me about, these random people talking about, oh, if, Donald Trump doesn't win the presidency, there's going to be an uprising or whatever, whatever. And, someone asked me, is this real? And I was like, it could be, right? But it's just one person, right? You've got a population of 330 million plus people, right? So yes, you're going to have uh, a few way outside, way extremes. But let us not participate in spreading that, because I think it's easy to, uh, as you said, right, be attracted to the negative information, feel like you want to spread it to warn people without actually doing the checks, right? So even like my kids, I'll have conversations with them, and they may mention something, and my first question is like, so where did you hear that, right? Did you like Google it and
Hmm.
confirm that it's right or not right? And I think there's a lot of work to be done there in terms of managing the information that's coming to us in a virtual platform. The complete opposite of that, I think, Kofi, is that we have to have more in-person conversations, right? Like we need more physical gatherings of people where we can actually sit and listen and talk to each other. Because it's so easy to have a negative conversation, lots
Right.
of confrontation virtually, right? Because you're not looking at somebody, you're not getting their physical cues, you don't get a sense of whether they're warm and peaceful and welcoming. And so it's easy to just keep attacking them, right? And keep doing that over and over and over. And so I think we have to find a way to talk to each other more in person, right? We're, as you said, we have an election year in Ghana. A lot of things are going to be online, right? And people are going to start talking all kinds of stuff. Someone sent me a poll about who's going to be presidential candidate for one side versus the other, and people are asking you to vote on it, and all kinds of things that I think are going to start popping up out there. But we need to have like real conversations, right? We need to be able to
No,
talk things through with each other, and actually get real experiences, right? Like you're on the ground, and so you probably know a lot more than a lot of people that aren't physically there and part of things. And so, how do we
yeah,
how do we engage with each other and have those conversations? Those are probably two off the top, I think, and there are two
yeah, no.
extremes in a way, right?
And I think, and I really want to pick up on that point because, like you said, it's going to be an election. Welcome 2025. We know this. We know what tends to happen, and there are operatives, right, in the media. Well, I don't want to say the media. I mean, it's like social media that utilize this platform, for negative uh, reasons and for division. And we've got to be this year. We got to be careful, right? Like I remember when there was a hurricane in Florida. My family was there, and there were people that were posting content that was completely false. But they're taking advantage of people's fear and concern and people's desire to get information. And so there were all sorts of posts that had nothing to do with what was actually going on. And so I think you're absolutely right that we've got to guard against negativity. We've got to guard against deep fakes. As I said, with AI, there's a lot of things that in California, for example, people are actually putting out ads with politicians' voices on it, voiceovers on it, that to generate sort of fake news, right? And so I think this is something in 2025 as a goal that we've got to be more diligent, and our eyes have got to be wide open to these kinds of attacks that seek to divide people rather than bring people together. So I think there's an extra kind of diligence that is necessary because people are going to be looking for information. There's going to be a lot of content in 2025, particularly in Ghana, um, that deals with elections. I also imagine for the United States, there's going to be a lot of content because Trump's going to be, you know, sworn in a matter of days, right? In about 10 days or so. And so everybody's going to be paying attention, things like that. So, uh, great opportunity for us to be more diligent, I think, this year. So yeah, that's one goal. Everybody out there, be very diligent. Social media, digital platforms. We've got to figure out a way to push back against negativity and stay positive as we do it. Somebody's learning the piano there, Rich?
It's downstairs. Yeah, my son's practicing there. Can you hear that?
Okay. We're getting some good background
Yeah,
music. Tell him thanks.
that's, yeah. I was gonna say that's my personal background music there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think goal number one, you're absolutely right. Maybe that's a collective goal for all of us, is to you know, push back against negativity, verify information. I see people make a lot of claims sometimes, and it's very biased claims. This happens all the time. You know, as you know, I come from a scientific sort of academic background, and I'm always cautious, right, of when people make elaborate claims. Elaborate claims do require a high burden of proof and evidence, you know. But so we've got to be careful, people. Just let's be diligent. It's 2025, and you know, don't fall for people's tricks out there on social media. I like your family goal, spending more time with family. I certainly want to do the same, and friends. I want to be a better friend. So you're gonna help me do that. You know, one of the things I admire about you is that you know
I'm
how to
on it.
stay in touch with people. You know, so I think that that's a wonderful thing. I don't always do so well in that category.
Yeah, that's it's I can probably maybe tell you a little bit about how that maybe happened. Like everybody looks at their lives very differently, and attribute different things to where they are and who they've become. Um, Growing up for me, I always felt like in my early years, like probably I get maybe between 3 and like 10. I wasn't around my mother and father, so I lived with an aunt. Um, and so friends for me were always like a safe, happy place, right? And so
I see.
over time, I started to realize that if you hang around good people, there's a lot that you could learn from them, right? And so um, I think this is my analysis in my old age. I think somewhere along the line there, I felt like if you wanted to have good people in your life, you you do have to bring something to their lives, right? People will
Mhm.
be kind to you for sure for no reason at all, but not for a repeated long time. And so I think I'm fortunate in a lot of ways to have a lot of good friends and that I've benefited from, right? Like you being one of them, and many others, especially from our high school days. But I've got people that I started out working with that I still stay really close to, like my first job. People that I studied with, people that I worked in different cities with that I've seen grow and I've you know stayed in touch because of the fact that I think it's helpful, right? And I always figure that in my old age I might need a lot of those friendships. But we feel it, right, even now, because one of the things that I think I notice now is that um, like the people that I work with at my current job, they've only known me for 5 years. So the person they saw and the person they see every day, the perceptions they have of me is purely based on that 5 years, right? But
Mhm.
I've got friends like yourself and people that I knew even before I got to high school that has seen the entire journey, right, and knows a little bit about it and just interacts very differently, and there's a different level of closeness, and that stuff, it feels good, right? And so I think I always imagine that in order to have those people around, you've got to show up in their lives, and it doesn't necessarily take a lot, right? I think I've learned to reach out to people and not hear from them necessarily respond right away, or a few days or a few weeks on people, but just to check in, right? So people will cross your mind randomly, and it's always good to send them a message now that we live in a world where I think you can pretty much stay in touch with everybody. So that's a good start. But that's sort of my reason, right? I think the thing I learned about goals, and this is fairly recently, maybe the last 4 or 5 years, is that when you have a goal and there's a vision for that specific goal, you have to know why, right? Why do I wanna? So you have to answer to yourself, why do you want to be a better friend, right?
Yeah,
And write that down, of course, and then you can take a few steps and write that down as well. But um, yeah, I tell people that's my superpower. I do it. I think I do a pretty decent job of staying in touch with people.
that's good, man. No, I appreciate that. You do. Um, and I always respected that. I think it's like a skill. So I think that that's great. One of the other goal um, that I have this year is to, last year I know we spoke, we did a couple episodes, and then towards the end of the year, things got really busy. I was juggling quite a bit. I feel like I'm in a place now where I've got a lot of help to get a lot of the big things done. And I want to be able to speak up more about, different things that's going on and make my own contribution. One of the things I've always wanted to talk about is safety in Guyana, safety on the roads. I really think we've got a crisis on our roads, and that's a big issue. I think for me, both as an individual who drive on the road every day and is constantly cut off by somebody or watch somebody run a red light, or just not obeying traffic uh, rules or laws. But I think there's so much we can do because after thinking a lot about that issue, I really think that we all have something to do when it comes to road safety in Guyana, right? I think pedestrians have a significant role to play. I'd say people, instead of walking like on the inside, when there's car parked, they'll walk on the outside in the traffic. Sometimes they're kind of dazed on the road, just some bad habits. Then the way we drive, of course, is a major issue. Trucks are a major issue, roads, and so many different. There's just so many. Then there's enforcement, and man, like the whole system. So I'm really hoping this year to talk about that, not just from a social perspective, but also from an engineering perspective, to see if we could drive better behavior and better practices, and overall help people to understand, how these things work. I once I was coming down, I was coming Camp Street. I was headed north on Camp Street, and then got to the intersection of Camp Street and Lamaha. And the east-west traffic, this guy coming from Lamaha headed east on Lamaha, right through the intersection, had a blinking red light, and north south had a flashing yellow light, a blinking yellow light. And well, the standard there is a flashing red light means stop and proceed with caution. It's the equivalent of a stop sign. And the blinking red light is a yield sign, equivalent to yield. So slow down, be prepared to stop, and if something, if it's clear, then you proceed. But the guy on the flashing red light just didn't stop, and I came right through and cleaned up this guy and just like threw him into the power pole, the lantern post, as we say at the corner of the street. And my friend and I just got there, so I ran down to let the police know, have the people call 912, which is our 911. And I asked the guy, I said, "Yo, you didn't see that red light, flashing red light?" I said, "Bye, we don't pay attention to them thing there." This blew me away. It blew me away when he told me that he doesn't pay attention to a flashing red light. And so there's something that we have to change about that. And I feel like we need to talk about how we do that and how we change behavior on the road. And I want to be able to talk about some of that this year. So it's part of my goal is to, really speak up on some of those matters. Because it's not it's human behavior. So that's how we use the road. And it's like I said, Rich, it's everything, right? It's a lot of things combined together, plus the pressure of development because things are happening and everyone wants to get somewhere fast. And I know, the president and his team is working really hard on putting out new roads, but it takes time to build new roads. And so in the meantime, we've got to be as safe as we can to deal with that. So I'm hoping I can, as a goal, talk about some of those issues, the role that engineering plays in our country, as well, and also get into some more research, data collection to get back into that area with students and with others to really impact the development of our country. So that's kind of my commitment for this year.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. Let me know if I can help in that anyway, because I think there is a lot of time when you live in a place, all you have is the perspectives from what that lived experience is, right? And I think uh, we talk about the shifts in technology and how significant that is, but I think when you look at the growth we're having in Ghana, that's a big shift, right? We don't necessarily know how to manage it and handle it. You see it with with the lanes. I saw people run up on the side on the sidewalks just so they can turn, as opposed to actually wait in the turning lane. Uh, they have no problem doing that. I think one of the good things is that um, with social media, we're highlighting some of that wrongdoing. But I think as I learned from reading, I think it was Contagious. Was that the book we read as a group? How good ideas get passed on. And so I think you can highlight the bad behavior, right? But I think based on what that book says, that you've got to model the good behavior as well as
The
highlight
good
the good
one.
behavior. So
Yeah, that's true.
all that probably means is that more people will feel okay doing that because they see other folks doing it, right? But what does good behavior look like? How do we talk about that? And how do we each take responsibility for that? One of the things that I do when I run, because I run on the road, is that, and I don't remember when I learned this. I think when I started running, but you're always supposed to run uh, into like
Yes.
towards the oncoming
Yeah,
traffic,
you
right?
got to
So that
see
let's
it.
say
You got to
somebody's
see the
not paying
traffic coming
attention,
through.
yeah,
Yep.
you can hop
You could
onto the
jump.
side of the road. But if the traffic is coming from behind you, then you know, people text and drive now, right? People will literally be driving and looking at their phones, and so they're not as focused, right? And they can easily run you over. So little
That is the
simple things
case.
like that. Yeah, we have a
Yeah,
lot of
man.
crosswalks across certain roads, and people ought to use those. Don't take them for granted and feel like it obviously takes more energy and effort to walk up the stairs and then walk down back the stairs as opposed to just running straight across the road. Uh,
Sometimes it's
but I
convenience. Yeah,
think we
you're
have
right.
to. Yeah, we do have to find some way to find the like in the US, for example, if you have a ticket, for example, or a DUI charge, there's a requirement that you go, sit in on a class and get certain credits before you can get your license back, or even get the points off your license if you're in one of those states. And there, I know and I'm not saying all of them, but I know those big sand trucks are. I mean, they're the biggest thing on the road, right? So there's no reason for them to yield to anybody or to do the right thing. They can kind of do whatever they want,
Yeah.
and maybe we ought to think about how do we enforce laws differently for those guys, and how do we get them to sit in on some training about road safety and practicing better behavior on the road. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, again, this seems like something that we are required to do based on where we are, our age, and our influence. And so, yeah, I think I'm excited to hear that you are ready to
Mhm.
to address some of this stuff head on, right? Because I think we have to. If not, as I don't remember who was it that said, but if not us, then who, right? So
Then who? Exactly. Exactly.
I'm excited.
If not me, then who? Right. So we have to take a personal sort of commitment and stake towards these kinds of things and try to push for better. That's just who it is, you know? So yeah. Well, those are the big goals, man. I don't know if you have any more to lay out, but I think that. You're just kind of wrapping up. I think it's a big year. It's 2025, guys, in the future. It's a big election year in Guyana, so it's going to be an exciting year. Election years are always exciting, um, and so looking forward to that. But at the same time, it's important for us to stay positive, for us to stay diligent. Don't let people push us to one side or the other, and not to create divisions in our communities and in our society. I think we got to be careful with that in this year. So we all have to kind of commit to ensuring that we maintain the peace and the love and the unity that we've got, in years that are not election years. I think that that's really important. Our family will remain important for me and for you. Um, and like I said, being able to speak up and address issues in our society and in our community, I think that's what I'm committing to.
Good
Anybody feel
stuff. Yeah, I mean,
you?
I've got a bunch of different smaller things that I'm working on, but yeah, just staying focused on the big stuff. But there's a lot of work still to be done. I think I told somebody I felt a little bit discouraged at some point that I'd gotten this far in life and still feel like there's so much more to learn, so much more to do. But I've gotten over
Always,
that struggle. I'm ready.
always.
uh,
The
no,
more you learn, the less you know.
that is right. But
Yeah, the more
it's
you learn, the
we
less
live
you
in
know.
exciting times, right? There isn't a whole lot that um, we want to know that we can't know, or things that we want to learn to do that we can't do. And so I think
True,
we have to think hard about what we want to learn about and what we want to do, and go after those things.
true, man. All right, guys. Hey, well, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. We're going to be doing this more. So if you're available to join the live at any time, appreciate that you can. But also, of course, it's going to be recorded and be on our page. So you can always go back and listen and comment and keep the conversation going. All right. So let us know what your goals are and what you think about, what we've been talking about. All right. Um, until
We're,
next time, guys.
we're always looking for people to join us. We're
Yes,
always looking for people to
definitely.
join us. So if you feel you want to be part of the conversation, I
On
know we've
topics.
got some amazing people out there that have all kinds of good nuggets of wisdom to share. So feel
Yeah.
free to hop
If there
on
are
and
any things
join
you want to
us.
talk about, yeah, drop it in the comments. Let us know. So really appreciate it. All right. So you guys
All right.
enjoy until we see you all next time. Keep expanding the conversation. Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.